Walmart employees know exactly which items in their store they would never put into their own shopping carts. As it turns out, that list is longer than you might think, and the 12 items I'm about to share are the ones that show up most frequently. You'd be awesome if you subscribed and liked this video. One, deli counter cold cuts. I want to start with something many of us buy every week without giving it much thought. Sliced cold cuts at the deli counter. On the surface, it looks appealing. The employee slices it right in front of you, fresh as can be. But there are a few things going on behind that counter that I think you should know before placing your next order. Walmart doesn't carry premium deli meat brands like Boar's Head at their deli counter. What you're mostly buying are lines of industrially processed meats containing very high levels of nitrites and sodium. And it's not just occasionally high, it's high enough that anyone with blood pressure concerns needs to pay serious attention. A single standard serving of cold cuts from this counter can contain 30 to 40% of your recommended daily sodium intake, and that's just for a small portion in your breakfast. The second issue is the meat slicer. This equipment comes into contact with many different types of meat throughout a shift, making the risk of cross-contamination very real. A former deli employee shared that under the pressure of work shifts, deep cleaning and sanitizing the slicer sometimes gets delayed beyond the required schedule. Then there's listeria, a type of bacteria that is particularly dangerous because it can grow even at refrigerator temperatures. It poses a hidden risk at any deli counter that fails to maintain proper hygiene standards. For older adults whose immune systems aren't as strong as they used to be, this is no small matter. Not everything that looks fresh in the store is actually safe. There are specific signs that can help you tell the difference, and I'll show you exactly where to look. 2. Budget pre-packaged ground beef and pork. Looking at those bright red, eye-catching trays of great value ground beef in the display case, you wouldn't think there's anything wrong, but that red color isn't entirely a sign of freshness. Here's what I want you to understand before tossing that tray into your cart. Budget ground beef and packaged pork at Walmart are industrially packaged by injecting nitrogen gas inside to preserve that bright red color throughout their shelf display time. This technique is completely legal and common in the industry, but what it doesn't tell you is that the ratio of fat trimmings and absorbed water in the meat is extremely high, especially in the 7327 ground beef variety, which means 27% fat. Users on the R Cooking Forum describe this exact issue. When cooked, Walmart's budget ground beef releases so much water and rendered fat that it almost submerges half the pan, leaving the meat mushy and bland. You spend $5 on a pound of meat, but after cooking, the actual amount of meat left in the pan is much less because a large portion of that weight was water and fat that evaporated or rendered out. For older adults keeping an eye on their cardiovascular health, these high-fat meat trays add unnecessary saturated fat to your diet, when in reality you could choose something better for a negligible price difference. If you buy ground beef at Walmart, switch over to the 9010 or 93.7 lean ground beef line. The price is slightly higher, but you get significantly more actual meat after cooking because less water and fat are lost. 3. Frozen farmed imported shrimp. The bag of great value frozen farmed white shrimp is one of the best sellers in Walmart's freezer section because of its very competitive price. I'm not saying you have to skip it entirely, but there is some information about its origin and farming practices that I think you should know so you can decide for yourself. This is high-density factory-farmed shrimp imported from warm water countries in Asia. Such high-density farming practices almost always require the use of antibiotics and water treatment chemicals to control diseases in cramped pond environments. The US FDA does inspect a portion of imported shipments, but the inspection rate isn't 100%, meaning not every bag of shrimp you buy has been tested for antibiotic residues before hitting the shelves. In terms of culinary quality, consumers and seafood experts alike note the same common drawback. When thawed, factory-farmed shrimp typically releases much more water than wild-caught shrimp because the meat absorbs water during post-harvest processing. When sautéed or grilled, the shrimp shrinks significantly and lacks the natural crispness and sweetness you're used to with fresh shrimp. For older adults whose liver and kidney function requires extra care, the accumulation of antibiotic residues from frequently consumed food is a long-term factor worth considering. When buying frozen shrimp at Walmart, you only need to spend an extra 30 seconds to look for the bag labeled wild caught instead of farmed shrimp. Walmart carries both types in the exact same freezer section, and the price difference isn't as large as many people think. In addition, you should look for seafood safety certification logos like MSC on the packaging, as this is a much more reliable indicator than just looking at the price. Now on to the fresh produce that many people buy to eat throughout the week, but in reality, it starts losing most of its nutritional value from the moment it sits in the distribution center. Walmart isn't the only place with this issue, but here is why it's particularly noticeable here. For conventional fresh produce. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy produce at Walmart. I'm saying you need to know what to buy and what to avoid because the line between the two is very clear here. The issue with fresh produce at Walmart begins with its supply chain. Goods have to pass through major distribution centers before reaching individual store locations, making that journey much longer compared to local supermarket chains with shorter supply chains. This particularly affects thin-skinned berries and leafy greens like strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, lettuce, and mushrooms, as these are the most sensitive to transit time and temperature fluctuations along the way. Consumer surveys show that about 1/3 of shoppers rate Walmart's produce as among the lowest quality across all supermarket chains they've shopped at. The most repeated real-world feedback is that strawberries mold underneath just 24 hours after being brought home, and packaged mushrooms turn slimy very quickly. Produce section employees have openly admitted that they don't have enough staffing to inspect and cull spoiled items every morning, so defective items remain mixed in with new inventory until customers discover them at home. However, the story isn't entirely negative. There is a group of produce items that I completely agree you should buy at Walmart due to great prices and consistent quality, root vegetables and thick-skinned produce with a naturally long shelf life such as potatoes, onions, carrots, bananas, and grapefruits. These aren't heavily affected by long transit journeys because their thick skins protect the inside much better. As for produce where you eat the skin, like strawberries, grapes, and lettuce, you're better off buying it at stores with faster inventory turnover like Trader Joe's or Aldi. 5. Pre-cut salads and pre-cut fruit. This is a category of items where I completely understand why so many people buy them, especially when you're busy or just don't want to spend time prepping. The bags of market-side chopped salad kits or trays of pre-cut watermelon, pineapple, and cantaloupe look convenient and save time, but there are two issues that go hand in hand here that I want you to consider. The first issue is safety. Once fruits and sprouts are cut, they release internal cellular fluids, creating an ideal moist environment for bacteria to thrive if there are any temperature fluctuations along the shipping chain or in the display case. Unlike whole fruit protected by its outer rind, pre-cut fruit no longer has that natural barrier. Grocery store employees note that pre-cut melon trays go sour and watery very quickly, and for older adults with more sensitive digestive systems, the risk from bacteria accumulating in long-stored pre-cut food is something really worth paying attention to. Not to mention, when you buy a tray of pre-cut watermelon or pineapple, you're essentially paying for the discarded rind, skin, and seeds at the price per pound of the fruit flesh. Calculated based on the weight of the food you actually get to eat, the price of pre-cut items is often 2 to 3 times higher than buying whole fruit and chopping it yourself. A $5 whole watermelon gives you the same amount of fruit flesh, or even more, than an $8 to $9 pre-cut tray. The convenience is real, and I'm not denying that. But if you're buying for a whole family or buying regularly, that price difference adds up to quite a significant amount over time. In my opinion, the best compromise is to buy whole fruit, chop it up all at once on the weekend, and store it in an airtight container in the fridge. You save money, control the freshness, and know exactly how the food you're eating was handled. Not every product labeled cheap at Walmart is actually cheap when you look closely at the ingredient list. There's one specific product that surprised me when I read the fine print, and I think you will be too. 6. Great value peanut butter. Peanut butter is something many families consume regularly, and Great Value creamy peanut butter with its very budget-friendly price looks like a reasonable choice. But this is precisely a case where I want you to turn the jar around and read the back label before throwing it into your cart. The food analysis site Mashed ranked Great Value creamy peanut butter among the unhealthiest peanut butter options out of popular American brands. The reason lies in the ingredient list. This product contains hydrogenated vegetable oils, which are a source of hidden trans fats that cardiologists have warned about for decades. On top of that, it contains monoglyceride emulsifiers, added sugar, and 135 milliliters of sodium per 32 grams serving. For comparison, natural peanut butter only needs 2 ingredients, peanuts and salt, nothing more. Trans fats, even at low levels, work through a dual mechanism that raises bad cholesterol and lowers good cholesterol, which is particularly harmful for anyone with a history of heart issues or those monitoring their cholesterol levels. For older adults who use peanut butter frequently, the cumulative trans fats from this source over time are a factor worthy of much more serious consideration than many people think. The interesting thing is that a better solution isn't far away. It's right there at Walmart. The Great Value Organic Natural Peanut Butter line contains only 100% organic peanuts and sea salt, with 0 hydrogenated oils or added sugars. It's the exact same brand in the exact same store, but with a completely different ingredient profile. 7. Freshness Guaranteed Packaged Baked Goods. The name Freshness Guaranteed sounds very confident, and that is precisely why I want you to know this before the next time you pick up a box of muffins or donuts under that label and toss it into your cart. Most of the baked goods in Walmart's bakery section are not freshly baked on site like many people think. These are factory-made frozen items shipped to the store, thawed out, packed onto trays, and given a new label. A neighbor of mine who has a sweet tooth shared bluntly that the baked goods here are overwhelmingly sweet. After eating them, you're left with a greasy feeling sticking to the roof of your mouth, and the texture is dry and dense in that characteristic way of reheated frozen goods. Muffins and donuts under the Freshness Guaranteed label contain high amounts of shortening, meaning solid vegetable fat, along with a list of preservatives long enough for the baked goods to last through days in the supply chain before reaching your hands. The actual nutritional value is very low. High calories, high saturated fat, and high sugar, but protein and fiber are practically negligible. A single muffin from a tray can contain 400 to 500 calories without providing a real sense of fullness because your body processes these types of calories very quickly. For anyone monitoring their blood sugar or weight, this is a type of food where the cheap price tag on the label doesn't reflect the true cost you pay later on. There is another product at Walmart where the nutrition facts table on the packaging looks fine, but when you read the ingredient list carefully, you'll see why nutritionists never recommend it for older adults. 8. Dirt cheap processed frozen foods. Those packages of Great Value frozen beef and bean burritos or trays of frozen mac and cheese under $2 look like a fantastic deal, especially when you need a quick meal and don't feel like cooking. I understand the appeal, but there is a very specific reason why Walmart can sell these items at that price point, and that reason isn't entirely to your benefit. To achieve a price of under $2 for a packaged meal, manufacturers have to cut real ingredients down to the absolute minimum. The meat in these cheap burritos makes up a very small percentage compared to flour, thickeners, and other filler ingredients. Users describe biting into a burrito and tasting mostly flour dough, with actual meat being sparse and the overall flavor bland. A standard serving of this dirt-cheap frozen line often contains over 1,000 of sodium, which is nearly 50% of the daily recommended sodium intake in just one small meal. For older adults managing blood pressure or kidney issues, the accumulation of sodium from meals like these over time puts a real strain on the cardiovascular system. A practical comparison shows that for the same $4 to $5, you could easily buy a block of tofu or a carton of eggs to cook a quick meal at home with real protein, far less sodium, and a much longer-lasting sense of fullness. Walmart's Better Goods line also offers frozen options with cleaner ingredients at a price only slightly higher, and that difference is far more worth it than the small savings from the dirt-cheap packages. Walmart has a new product line that, in my opinion, is much more noteworthy than their traditional private label, and most shoppers here don't know about it yet. 9. Great Value Cottage Cheese. Cottage cheese has been making a huge comeback over the last few years because of its high protein content and versatility in the kitchen. Many people buy Great Value Cottage cheese at Walmart because of its reasonable price, but if you've ever seen a tub of this cottage cheese separate into a watery liquid layer on top and a thick part underneath, or noticed a much sharper sour taste than usual, it's not spoiled. That's just a characteristic of this product. Traditional cottage cheese is naturally fermented, a process that creates a thick texture and a natural, mildly tangy flavor from the milk. Great Value Cottage Cheese replaces that process with stabilizers and thickening additives to shorten production time. As a result, the product is more prone to watery separation and has an artificially sharp, sour taste, rather than the natural tang from fermentation. Users on the Our Cooking forum fairly consistently point out that Great Value Cottage cheese is runny, watery, and lacks richness compared to other brands like Daisy. If you eat cottage cheese straight up or use it in salads, this difference is clear right from the very first spoonful. The Daisy Cottage Cheese brand is consistently rated significantly better in both texture and flavor by consumers and food experts alike for only a small price difference. However, there is one scenario where Great Value Cottage cheese is still perfectly usable when you use it as an ingredient mixed into pancake batter or for making lasagna sauce. At high baking temperatures, the texture of the cheese breaks down completely and melts into the mixture, at which point the difference between brands barely impacts the final result of the dish. There is an extra amount of money that shoppers at Walmart are paying every month without realizing it. Not because the listed price is high, but because they are buying the right product in the wrong place. 10. Great Value Organic Milk. If you're buying organic milk, specifically Great Value Organic Whole Milk or 2% milk at Walmart, this is one item where Walmart isn't actually the cheapest place to buy, even though their brand image is always tied to low prices. Price comparison data shows that Target's Good and Gather organic line and Aldi's Simply Nature organic line both maintain lower prices than Walmart for the same 1-gallon size of organic milk, with the difference ranging from a few dozen cents to almost $1 depending on the time. It sounds small, but for a family that consumes organic milk regularly at 2 to 3 jugs per week, that price difference adds up to $50 to $100 a year that you don't need to spend. The reason lies in the rate of inventory turnover. Fewer customers buy organic milk at Walmart compared to regular non-organic milk, so inventory rotates slower, and Walmart faces less price competition pressure in this segment. Target and Aldi have a larger customer base for organic items, goods sell faster, and prices are therefore more competitive. If your home is close to both Walmart and Target or Aldi, organic milk is an item worth buying at the right store instead of just casually throwing it into your cart out of convenience. But if Walmart is your only convenient option, it's not a huge problem. Just be aware that you're paying a small premium for that convenience. 11. Fresh organic produce. This is something I think will surprise a lot of people because it goes completely against Walmart's image of always being cheaper than everywhere else. Fresh organic produce at Walmart, specifically organic apples, kale, tomatoes, and other organic vegetables, is often priced higher than what you would find at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's at the same given time. It might sound impossible, but there is a clear economic reason behind it. Walmart has a significantly smaller base of customers buying organic items compared to supermarket chains that specialize in healthy foods. When inventory turnover is slow, the percentage of organic produce that gets tossed out before it can be sold is higher, and the cost of that spoiled inventory has to be factored into the selling price of what's left. As a result, organic shoppers at Walmart are indirectly subsidizing the cost of the discarded goods. Meanwhile, Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, with a much larger organic customer base, turns its inventory over much faster, has a lower spoilage rate, and can keep its prices more competitive. Shopping experts have confirmed this through direct head-to-head comparisons. Seasonal organic lettuce and apples at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's are usually cheaper and fresher than the exact same items at Walmart. This is one of those rare cases where cheapest and Walmart don't go together. If eating organic is a priority for you, allocate that budget to Trader Joe's, Aldi's Simply Nature line, or even local farmers markets on the weekend. At Walmart, it makes much more sense to stick to dry goods, packaged items, and non-organic products. The next two ingredients I'm about to talk about are things almost nobody thinks to price compare between supermarkets, but this is precisely where Walmart is quietly charging you more than necessary. 12. Pure vanilla extract and maple syrup. There are things you buy at Walmart where no one complains about the quality, yet you're paying more than necessary without realizing it. Pure vanilla extract and maple syrup are two exact examples of this. Great value, pure vanilla extract, and great value 100% pure maple syrup are both decent products in terms of quality. The issue lies in the price, specifically the price per ounce. Pure vanilla extract is sold at Walmart in 2 Oz or 4 Oz bottles, and this is the size format with the highest markup percentage. When you calculate the cost per ounce and compare it to the large capacity bottles from the Kirkland line at Costco or Members Mark at Sam's Club, the price difference is often nearly double. Real shoppers have shared their shock when comparing for the first time. Even though both are 100% pure vanilla extract, buying the small bottle at Walmart feels like paying a penalty for buying in smaller quantities. Maple syrup is a similar story. Even though the Great Value maple syrup label is good quality imported grade A Canadian syrup, Walmart almost never puts this item on sale. Meanwhile, Aldi sells Canadian maple syrup under its Simply Nature line at a price 25% to 40% lower than Walmart for the exact same volume and origin. Costco is also a superior choice if your family uses maple syrup regularly for breakfast. The reason Walmart can maintain high markup prices on these baking ingredients is that they are low-frequency purchases. Shoppers rarely price compare carefully for items they only buy once every few months. If you use vanilla or maple syrup regularly, switching to buying bulk sizes at Costco or Sam's Club all at once will yield noticeable savings over time. But if you only need small amounts occasionally, Walmart remains a convenient option. Bonus, secrets to grocery shopping at Walmart in 2026. Walmart isn't a bad place to shop, but knowing how to buy the right things in the right places is a completely different story. After everything I've shared, here is how I think you should approach shopping at Walmart from now on. First, and most importantly, is the Better Goods line. This is a private label that Walmart introduced as an upgrade from traditional Great Value. Better Goods products feature the Made Without certification, meaning no artificial colors and no industrial preservatives, with over 70% of the items in this line priced under $5. If you still shop at Walmart, prioritize looking for the Better Goods label in categories like packaged nuts, sauces, plant-based foods, and frozen items before reaching for Great Value. Second, Walmart is actively fulfilling its commitment to phase out 11 artificial dyes and 30 additives from its entire private label lineup starting in 2026. This means that newly manufactured batches will have cleaner ingredient profiles compared to older stock remaining on the shelves. When shopping, pay attention to the production date and quickly skim the ingredient list to choose the newer batches. Walmart remains a good place to shop if you know exactly what to avoid. Dry goods, packaged items, and the new Better Goods line, these are the things Walmart does well. As for fresh meat, thin-skinned produce, and premium spices, know the right places to buy them. Both your wallet and your health deserve to be treated the right way.